I have the pleasure of being joined by Dave Rees. Now, Dave is the new VP for Growth at Copernicus AI. Copernicus AI is a diamond sponsor for all four state events for BeerOps in Western Australia, Queensland, Victoria, and New South Wales. So that's Brisbane, Perth, Melbourne, and Sydney. Dave, great to see you. Thank you so much for making time to catch up with me.
No, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
It's
Really looking forward to this discussion.
Yeah, indeed. And it's great to join you in your amazing lab there off camera. Just for our audience, I had the benefit of sort of an unguided tour of that amazing layer of AI and innovation, which we'll get to in a minute. For our audience, Dave, as we're talking just off camera, just to set the scene for our audience, we're going to have a quick conversation about what is Copernicus AI and why does it matter. We're going to talk about what a day in the life of Dave Rees is like and your role and remit as the new VP for growth for Copernicus and other things. And then generally talk about why you're excited to sponsor BeerOps across all four states. But I wonder if you could just kick us off with like a 30,000 foot overview of what is Copernicus AI and why does it matter?
Well, I guess it sort of stems back to, a path of, my journey myself. So I sort of failed uni, tripped out of uni accidentally and started selling this company called Google. It's like, no, and, I realized at the time that it was new technology that was going to change the game. And I'd make a lot of phone calls and, 19 out of 20 answers would be, no, thanks, I'll stick with Yellow Pages. And interestingly enough, I also sort of went through multiple paradigm shifts, the .com being that one, cloud, IoT with a few of the other ventures, and now it's AI. And AI, what I call the age of acceleration, is changing everything, and it's changing quick.
Right.
And Copernicus, my wife was 6 years McKinsey, so I know a lot of McKinsey trained people. I've seen the work that my wife does, obviously not the details, but understanding the work that goes into the research for multiple aspects of, what that company's looking to do, whether it's an M&A or, a procurement cycle or a risk analysis or many of these things. Copernicus can do not only a McKinsey report for one company that used to take McKinsey maybe 2 weeks with a team of four, costing a lot of money. It does that in about 12 seconds, but it does it for the entire ecosystem or the niche of that company. So you can get a top-down view instantly, drill down even further, and from there, get the decision or the data that you need, the people who need them, to make the decisions quickly in a fraction of the time. It's actually 99.9999% faster, but I'm only allowed to say 90%. So,
Um, Walk us through when you think about Copernicus AI, and I know you've outlined some of that element. What does a normal engagement sort of look like from your initial first contact with a client and looking at how you discover the types of problems they're trying to solve through to where you bring your innovative capability into that? Looking at your website, you've got some amazing material there, which I highly advise our audience to make the time to go and visit. And wherever they see this video, they will have links to go to your company, your LinkedIn profiles and details, and obviously the BeerOps website. But I saw it described as AI-driven strategic sourcing and market intelligence, or quote unquote, the ability to unlock strategic market insights fast and get AI-driven analysis from millions of companies, which in effect, I think you describe as being able to then outpace competitors and make smarter decisions. Walk us through just some of the fundamental elements around sort of, if I'm in the first point of contact and I'm looking to learn more about what you guys do and then how you can help me transform that part of my business. What does that sort of engagement look like, Dave?
so look, what I saw with Copernicus was, an unpainted rocket ship, like a Saturn V, and I've got a Saturn V above my desk. Uh, and when I came on board, I saw this amazing tool that would save time and money for businesses, across multiple parts of the organization. So Mike actually sort of requested that we bumped into each other, and I'll tell you that story later. But he asked me to raise some money. I raised some money. Then he asked me to start selling. Did some selling, and what I realized was we had a fantastic rocket ship, but it wasn't painted. So what we did, we focused using some of that money in the raise on painting the rocket ship, and now we have a very polished looking product. And we just didn't have any pilots. So, a lot of tech companies have genius founders who are amazing at certain things and not so good at certain things. I'm certainly one of them. I always get in trouble because I don't pay my parking fines, even though I thought I had. So what we did was we went to Boston to present at the Boston FinTech, and we were lucky enough to be a partner there. And I can't remember the exact details, but well, the point was we met Nick Lazarus. Now, Nick Lazarus, quite a well-known figure in the US, sold two banks, one to the Lehman Brothers, was the director of Lehman Brothers, and we had lunch with him, and he was a very early investor in Copernicus. And I remember at lunch saying to him, "Will you be our executive chairman?" And I kind of knew what I was doing because I knew the reason we were having lunch was just because he was interested and probably wanted to catch up and see what we're up to. Now, I can't quite remember if he was an early investor or not, but he knows Mike through other ventures. Either way, we sat down, we showed him, and he was interested. But it still wasn't ready for market. So it is a paint job. So I got a paint job, then we went back, and we were lucky enough to have Nick Lazarus now as our exec chairman, who is a billionaire, just an amazing man with amazing ethics, and someone that I can now call on, which is cool. We can call a billionaire every now and then for advice for when they call you. He also saw that we were missing pilots. So his son, Nick Jr., came on as COO, and Nick was CEO of many companies in fintech space. Can't remember exactly what they were. So suddenly now we've got this Saturn rocket ship with pilots, and we've got this team. And this team is what is going to drive Copernicus to the world. And, really, my job with growth is to get Copernicus known. And, if we could sum up Copernicus, in a sentence, it does what, the big four consulting firms take weeks to do in seconds. We use the S&P database. So we're the only licensed partner with S&P that's allowed to train our AI on their data.
Wow.
So, and that's a big deal to get that sort of relationship. We also have access to private company data as well. So we can not only compare, and when you look at the big four, when they do what they're doing, for whatever reason they're doing it, when there's, looking at annual reports and comparing companies, this company's doing well, why they're doing well. We can do that for all the companies. It's like if you're a fisherman and someone said, "Hey, fishing is going to be great outside Rottnest," and that, if you're not from Perth, that's the island of Perth, great fishing. And so, people would send boats out and throw some, hooks in and see if they catch fish. Well, what Copernicus is like, well, hang on, here's every fish on the planet, where they are, what type of fish, what the market value of that fish, which fish you should catch first based on, the capacity of your, boat, and, the laws around how many fish you can bring back. So Copernicus really is a great example of how AI is going to save companies time and money. And this is enormous. Most analysts in, big tech companies,
Yeah.
are on high salaries. For example, I won't tell you which customer, but we had a customer that said, "So I don't need 30 of my 40 analysts." So I said, "You don't need 37 because one could get hit by a bus, and one might have a sick day. So keep three." I challenge my customers sometimes, like, bring in your analyst and get the receptionist to pick a niche, and they sit on one side, I take the manager on my side and go for 15 minutes, and what we can come up with in 15 minutes. They haven't even almost downloaded the company reports yet.
Yeah, yeah. I
So
do like your fishing analogy because, in many ways, when you think about that, not only can you take the data sets around the world and all the types of fish, but you could also then do historical analysis on, well, what fish have been caught and what was reported from individuals, maybe what did they post on social media, what's been put in from fisheries companies that have actually logged their catches, what's come in from competitions and who got the biggest fish and the date, the time, the weather, and the tide. And then you get that market analysis. And then if I want to catch a particular type of fish at a particular size for a competition or commercial, I can use that profile that I imagine Copernicus has then put together and say, on this date, this time, this tide, this part of the moon, you'll catch this fish. And for any organization of any size, that is not only a game changer, but it's a paradigm shift on how they operate and operationally how they go to market and get shorter time to market, quicker time to return on investment. With all that in
exactly.
mind, I don't know if there is such a thing, but what's a day in the life of Dave like as you tackle that sort of challenge?
Well, I might just go back to the last question because there's one
Yeah,
point
sure.
that I probably should have shown. We also extract all the data that's publicly available from every analyst on the planet.
Right.
So we show the last 5 years and we show the 5 years, the upcoming 5 years. And, we look at two standard deviation to where the market thinks, this niche or, it is going. So that's quite powerful because understanding, especially an innovation guy, understanding a startup, people always ask, I want to get rich. And I say, well, solve a problem. And they know I want to get rich. And I said, well, if you solve a problem, but Copernicus could tell you which problem is going to be worth a fair bit because it's 5 years in ahead. And there's certain industries, certainly, AI being one of them, that's outpacing, all other innovation. Yet it's still injected into other segments, but there might be a segment and they've got three ideas, and one of those ideas we can show them that the market's going to grow enormously, and these two, the market's going to die because of AI risk or many multiple risks that businesses
Yeah.
face.
Yeah, I guess you've got the benefit, the ability to apply historical analytics on the data you do know and the facts you've actually got, as well as the predictive analytics of based on these trends, this is where it looks like it's going to go. And here are 20 other examples of where these trends have performed this way. It makes sense that this is going to come to fruition. Here's a good place to get in. And as you said, here's a problem to solve. And then potentially, not just solve the problem in the market, but grow market leadership and gain some investment or sales. I can imagine you're jumping out of bed every day just dying to do this job, and I'm very envious looking at the lab that you've got behind you to work within. To that effect, what's a day in the life of Dave Rees like in that space? I mean, when we think about a vice president of growth overall, it has a fairly sort of visual mindset that we have around those types of things, but you're very much, I guess, an outlier in that, in a good way, that you're coming at from what I imagine a very different angle, a different approach, which gives you some of that innovative and innovation lead. Is that a fair comment?
It is actually, a day in the life. It's funny, interestingly enough, before you mentioned your days in the tech world, and when your example of what happened during the GFC. Well, I was selling Cisco and I was selling with speeds and feeds to customers. And it took a long time to realize that that's not what customers are looking for. What customers are looking for is outcomes.
Yeah.
So day in the life of Dave Rees right now is effectively handing over management of the other 8 companies I run to others, so I can focus on Copernicus full time, and that's due to I see it as a huge opportunity, especially when ex-head of risk of BlackRock joins the advisory board. You're onto something, and so I wake up and I literally have lost my keys, and I've got whiteboards and everywhere, and I focus on the priorities of the day. But in the day of the life of David Rees, it's actually trying to explain to customers or get in front of them to show them, these outcomes. And it's quite easy once you're in front of them in a community where you get a lot of warm welcomes. So, we've only been selling for 3 weeks and everyone we've shown bought. But at a conference, for example, it's very, they think it's a wrapper, like a chat cheat
Yeah.
PT wrapper around, publicly available information. So, one of the things I'm thinking about all the time is how do I figure out a way to explain that so that they actually understand and, we can show that to them. So, but at the moment, a day in the life is all about Copernicus growth. So I came up with an idea that we've got fantastic innovation community across Australia and both West and East Coast. I think one of the stats, and don't quote me because I'll probably get it wrong, but Perth has more engineers at the moment than I think it was NASA or something like that. But and I believe that's probably because the miners pay quite a lot. But we've got tremendous innovation. We've got Innovation Nation, for example, which was created out of Perth. And the goal of growing Copernicus, I thought if I could also grow Copernicus and grow the ecosystem, everybody wins. So, what we've done is with the BeerOps sponsorship, looping in Steve, fantastic bloke, started BeerOps in 2014, with a bunch of people drinking beer and has grown it into a masterpiece. But I watched the videos and I thought, you know what? After being around Innovation Nation, because quite a few of my company members are on it, having an MC and using video um, enhances the message. So I called Christina and Brad Hill and I said, hey, meet Stephen. Hey, Stephen, I think your conference will be better if you have personalities. And even better, why don't we get the government involved? So I get on LinkedIn, I made a cry for the innovators to go and see our new innovation chief's maiden speech. And, we got quite a big audience. And, by doing that, we were able to bring together the right people and then combine that with BeerOps. And ultimately, Copernicus will be a benefactor because if, we're siloed, it's sort of like virtualization in a way. We've got silos all over the place. All we're going to do is mainframe it and
Yeah.
join the dots together, and collectively as a team, we win. A team always outperforms an individual or a group, in this instance, a group of groups, right? So
Absolutely.
do that, and then I look around and try and invent other stuff that's important to me. So
Sounds like an amazing life, mate, and I'm sure that our audience tuned in is just going to be dying of envy of all of those things. That opportunity to work in something so exciting, to work specifically around the artificial intelligence element of it, and as you said, not just a wrapper of another GPT, someone like OpenAI's, but your actual own platform, and with the type of people you've got around you and behind you, and the capacity and capability they've got to go to the market. I did like the fact that when you talked about Western Australia, by necessity in many ways, Western Australia has had to innovate because one, it's so far away from everything, but also two, there's such a large sort of, big, deep, heavy industry market sector that are in mining and engineering and so forth that you can tap into that both as a customer base, but also as an engineering base for people who can think very differently and out of the box necessarily. Um, I was very interested to sort of hear your thinking around BeerOps. So to circle back into BeerOps, so for our audience who probably know BeerOps by now, but it's Australia's largest tech networking event, and it's an amazing opportunity. There are 4 events through the year. There's Queensland, then WA, then Victoria, New South Wales. So Brisbane, Perth, Melbourne, then Sydney. And you're a diamond sponsor of all 4 events in all 4 states, which is amazing. Congratulations, and really exciting to see you get on board with that with Stephen Wallace's team and his co-founder and co. When I think about some of the things you talked about there, and it's amazing you're bringing those innovations, and you're absolutely right across all of that board. When you think about events like BeerOps, and you mentioned a few others you've been to, what actually excites you to sponsor BeerOps as an event itself and be part of that? Like what really fires you up to sort of go, you know what, this is an event we want to get on board with, invest in, be part of, and bring some of the innovation to? What is that sort of thing that really gets you excited about something like BeerOps?
well, number one, meeting Stephen, and for those who haven't met Stephen, do meet him. He's an amazing individual, but he also listened. When I suggested a couple of ideas that I thought might help, help him, he said yes, and it was open to the opportunity. And a lot of founders that I meet sometimes aren't. So he was open to the opportunity of creating a win-win scenario, and there's an element of bringing together the government, academia, charities, and really use um, everybody's experience of what they do well at to make this event huge. The opportunity for reach here, because it's already the biggest and it's in 4 capital cities, is fantastic, because collectively we can join the East Coast and West Coast, but we can bring Australia's entire ecosystem up as a group. And that excites me, and it will also help Copernicus. So it's a win-win-win. I'm meeting with the new innovation minister shortly. I've met with Lynn Beasley. She runs the Academy for Autism Children, which I'm a volunteer in, being neurodiverse myself. And Steve's also sending Lynn whole team free tickets. And I also requested that if we hit certain numbers, that some of this goes to charity. And then he started talking about the charities, and so his ethics, his commitment to building an amazing ecosystem aligns with mine. So we're actually all trying to do the same thing here. We're all trying to grow our businesses. We're all trying to learn about the next thing. AI is the next thing, and obviously, with cyber being the other discuss topic of point, you will need AI cyber, because otherwise AI will break your cyber.
Yeah.
That's certainly interesting. There's going to be boffins, and I love boffins. I love speaking to them. I like watching, Top Gun, and I like watching String 3 on YouTube. But I think the audience is diverse, and it also sounds like a fun conference. BeerOps. I think your best results come from when you're having fun. So BeerOps is perfect, and we just want to help.
Amazing. If you haven't already seen it, I recommend you go and see the latest and hopefully final Mission Impossible with Tom Cruise. The entire storylines around, without giving away any spoilers, an AI agent called the Entity that sort of attempts to take over the world. And even though it's kind of a spoof in many ways, surrounded by lots of go bang action and shooting, it actually speaks directly to some of the things that we should probably be concerned about that you alluded to. I was really interested to hear when I think about an organization like yours at Copernicus AI, just hearing you talk about some of the things that it brings to it. My own experience with the event is very much on par with that, with regard to going to an event where I could just relax, be myself, be surrounded by birds of a feather, as well as people who are completely different from me. You mentioned a couple of things I just want to highlight. I know Stephen will be on my case to do this, but when we think about diversity, inclusion, and equity and so forth, or DEI as it's generally referred to, that's all well and good and often a tick in a box for large corporates. But Stephen lives and breathes that, as you said, and not just sort of the traditional DEI element, but inclusivity across the board. So all age brackets, all races, creeds, religions, all types of roles and responsibilities. So it doesn't matter whether you're a CEO or you're a new entrant to the job market as an intern, whatever. You're all in the same room, same place, bumping elbows, saying hello, shaking hands, networking. That to me, is kind of something that Australia has wanted for a long time. And I know he's been doing it for 10 years, but now that it's at the level where he's essentially, as you said, he's got north, south, east, and west covered Australia wide. Um, I think it's a great opportunity this year, not just for sponsors and partners like yourselves across all 4 events, but specifically for attendees. And I'd love to get your thoughts on that in a moment, because I think, with people like yourself there in your role, as well as your organization, Copernicus AI, as a diamond sponsor, that's an opportunity that doesn't come along very often, where we can actually be in the same room at the same time and actually talk to you in person, just share ideas, get some of the innovative thinking you've got, and then also potentially follow on and connect after the event. Maybe connect on LinkedIn, set up some calls, meet, and even look at how Copernicus AI can help their projects. I don't know if I can name another event like BeerOps that actually brings that all under one roof for a number of hours on one night and one day in one area. When you think about it from an attendee's point of view, with regard to what you sort of mentioned there with what Copernicus AI brings to the table as a diamond sponsor, and what you're looking forward to the event, and where it's really touched on some of the notes that you personally and professionally looking for. I wonder if I can get your thoughts with regard to if you were coming at it from an attendee's point of view. What sort of things would you be looking forward to? How would you best prepare for it to sort of come along on the night, as it were, and get the most out of the event, get the most out of meeting people like you and takeaways from the event? What sort of things do you recommend that attendees look for with regard to doing the homework pre-event and then sort of things they could be doing on the night to actually get the most out of it?
Yeah, having been to many conferences now, I'm going to show Steve some AI technology that can help, because the problem what I have with going to conferences is you speak to 100 people and you can never remember who's who. So we're going to put some technology in place to help that. That makes it quite easy. A lot of people aren't even aware on LinkedIn. If you hit the LinkedIn search on the right-hand side, that little button, they can just point their camera at your phone. But what I'd say is, don't be afraid to talk to the CEOs, because if you've done your homework, you're like, oh, we really got to talk. I found that when my wife was at McKinsey, for example, the big global partner, Asia partner, whatever it was, would be at the bar by himself because everyone was too afraid to speak to him. So I just get up and said, "G'day, I'm Dave. How you going?" And some of them have become great mentors. So don't be afraid to talk to senior people, but right, vice versa. Senior people talk to the junior people, because a mentee-mentor relationships both ways. Both parties should be getting as much information, and it should be a learning process for both. And another tip I would give would be meet different people. Just go up randomly to people and introduce yourself. You would be amazed what happens when you just yourself. Just don't prepare a script. Just go up and say hi and having a good day. Uh, What's interesting for you in this event? But it's going to be a fun event. So I would tell the attendees to wear comfortable shoes because they'll probably be dancing.
That's a good point, actually. Yes. Wear comfortable shoes. That's good life advice in general, whether you're trekking the Himalayas or whether you're going to a BeerOps, wear comfortable shoes. I love that. I'm going to put that on the back of a t-shirt somewhere and quote you, Dave.
We need to make conferences fun,
Yeah.
because the more fun they are, and for example, I think it was the WA Women's Award, you know, we started a train, and it just got the conference rocking. And it's just, sometimes you just need a little spark on a rocket ship like Copernicus to, light that fire. And, I always put hopefully I don't get copyright infringed, but the NASA go um,
Yep.
video in a lot of my videos, just because it's fun. So expect a fun conference, and don't be afraid. Talk to lots of people, but remember, two ears, one one mouth. Really got that wrong. So be there to learn, and whether it's whichever direction the discussion goes, there should never be debate. Should be encouraged,
Yeah.
because that's how you learn. You know, so
Yeah, be open to opportunity, I think is the big one for me. My dad used to say to me that, no matter where you go into something, if I go to a movie, I go with no expectation whatsoever, so that whatever happens, I feel like I got good value. If I go to a meeting with a client, again, I go in there eyes wide open, ears open, thinking if anything comes out of this, it's a blessing, it's great, it's icing on the cake. If I get nothing, at least I'll learn from something. And I think when the BeerOps that I last went to, it was the same thing. As you said, I would randomly walk up to interesting people. Often I'd look for someone who hasn't necessarily managed to connect with someone just standing on their own, or I'd go and break the ice with them. As you said, those chains or some other icebreaker. One young guy
10-ton
from a
elephant,
yeah, one young
10-ton
guy,
elephant.
one young guy
What
had a really good
breaks the
one with
ice?
me. He came up from a HR company and he said, "Do you want to hear a good joke?" And it was like caught me offside. I was like, "Yeah, I'd love to know a good joke, right?" And he'd prepared a bunch of these dad jokes. And I was like, "What are you, 23-year-old? And you're telling me dad jokes? That's gold." But immediately we developed rapport, and with that rapport
Exactly.
comes trust, and we connect on LinkedIn. And as you said, have your phone out, have the search button, click on the quick response scanning tool or the QR code tool, as it were. I always laugh that most people don't know that QR stands for quick response. And then just start connecting and then do the follow up.
I didn't know
Do-
that.
Did you? Yeah, QR. It's like everyone went through lockdown and they talk about QR codes. And I turn around saying, "Oh, where's the quick response code for the menu?" And they're like,
Um,
I'm like,
the other
the square thing."
going back to the technology, because I forgot ADHD squared, is if you do meet 10 or 20 people, make sure you do write down, and this technology will help. But who they are, what you spoke about,
Yeah.
and don't be afraid to tell people your failures. See, what I used to think when I was a junior was, you'd go into a job interview and tell them all your successes. Now all I ask for in my job interviews is tell me your failures. That's where you learn.
Yes.
So it's okay to tell senior leaders you have failures because they expect them, right? And they're actually there to help you. And if you tell them you don't have any, they can't help you.
Those
So
those failures become a superpower, don't they? I know in the late 80s and the early 90s when sort of the dot-com boom was really taking off, a lot of investors would ask us, what have you done wrong? What's collapsed? What's crashed? And I could never get my head around it until one day I said to somebody, an investor, I was like, why are you asking that question? He said, I want to learn what mistakes you've made so that you don't go chapter 11 on my dollar, and I'll help you get the skills to avoid that. But then we can also build on that superpower of the things that you've crashed and got up and moved on, because they are superpowers. Someone who hasn't fallen over and hasn't gone chapter 11, I don't want to do that on my time. And I was like, that's a great point. I'll give you another little fun one that I picked up from someone recently in the US. What she did is she came up with her phone and sort of did that selfie thing of holding the phone out and said, hey, can I take a selfie? She said, but first, can I just quickly record something? I said, sure. And so you hit the thing, went, hi, this is Des, he's blah, blah, great to meet you, blah, 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 blah. And then she'd stop recording and then go, let's take the photo, smile. And I was like, hey, that's interesting. What's the video? She said, that's my reminder of who you are, what you do, and what we talked about. And then I
wow,
got a photo.
we could integrate that.
I was like, that is brilliant, right?
AI could integrate that very quickly. I mean, I build shit all the time,
Yeah.
and AI is taking stuff. In
Well,
fact, another thing for investors, because what I'm seeing with private investment, I haven't got a lot of experience in institutional yet. Check size is always too small, but I've raised over $24 million now for multiple ventures, and one of the no's is you're working on too many things, but AI enables that. It, you know,
yes,
so we need to also change the mindset of investors that AI is going to change how you even look at investing in a company. So, that could be a really great topic to talk about at the conference as well. I'll tell Stephen.
that's true. Yeah, I will
um,
do. Well, someone told me yesterday that their latest data shows that over 80,000 new startups are happening per hour around the world where AI is in the description. Albeit that a lot of them are, as you described before, sort of GPT rapids, but some of them are really good cut-through technologies. But yes, these are all great topics to talk about on the night. So I think for our audience, just to wrap us up, I would love you to reach out and get in contact with Dave Rees at the event, learn more about Copernicus AI, go there and have done your homework, understand what the company does, look at their website, read the About Us page, look at some of their news and announcements, follow them on social media, whether it's whatever platform you're interested, particularly LinkedIn, make those connections, but don't necessarily be concerned with just reaching out and doing a connection straight away. Just click follow. You can learn so much from following what Dave's
yeah,
doing online with his stuff he's
and
publishing, some
no,
of the articles.
no automated replies once you connect.
Yeah,
Because
exactly. Yeah, be human. Well, Dave, it's been an
yeah,
absolute pleasure to get to know you, chat with you. Thank you so much for the virtual tour earlier, unguided tour of your lab there. I look forward to seeing it in person one day when I'm next in your part of the world. I'm over in WA quite often. I'm looking forward to seeing where Copernicus AI goes as you drive your role as the
I,
new VP for growth. I think you're going to do
I
amazing things, think outside the box.
would like to add one more thing,
Please
which
do.
is don't be afraid of AI taking your job.
Yep.
AI is not going to take your job. It's going to change your job. That's all. You're just going to be driving AI. So, if you are afraid of AI taking your job, then I would suggest getting on YouTube. You can learn so much from YouTube and start doing AI prompting. Just start watching the videos, start practicing. I
Yep.
must have done 10,000 now, but my first one was rubbish. There's also some cheat sheets for AI prompting you should download. And don't be afraid, AI is not going to um, take your job if you learn AI. And it's very easy to learn. It's not as hard as you think.
Indeed, great advice. Last week at Click's annual user conference, Mike Capone, the CEO, had a one-liner that I know you'll love and our audience will love to hear. He said, AI is not going to take your job, but somebody who is better at AI than you most likely will. So get good at AI. And I was like, I need that on a t-shirt. I'm going to get it done and I'm a size XL. Someone print it. Dave, I could literally talk to you all day. I know our
Can
audience
I
would
can I add
love
one
to
more
do that.
thing?
Yeah, please do, mate. Absolutely. I love your sound bites.
So shout out to Mike QQ and Sam, um, Mind
Yeah,
Bankers. They're two guys that check out their LinkedIn. Two complete geniuses. Mike was Perth born and bred, went to ECU University, and had to go to Silicon Valley, to take the company to the next level. I want to change that with Steve and with BeerOps. We want to keep the talent in Australia, and have the companies have the capability to stay here, and that's where we need the whole community to come together from corporate, government, charity,
yeah.
education. I'm probably missing a few there, but if we all come together, I really think we can change Australia for the better.
Absolutely, and I think the timing now is some of the best time where all the tools, all the capability, all of the brains trust is here, and the opportunity going forward with what's happening in the world now is the doors are wide open for that innovation to be taken to it. And we saw that in the 80s, we saw it in the mid 90s, and I think now in 2025 we're seeing another repeat of that experience where there is so much opportunity to do new innovative things if we just think outside the box. Now, folks, thanks for tuning in. We will have, wherever you see this, whether it's on our video platform, vidneon.com, whether it's on our YouTube channel, and if you're a subscriber or not, whether you see it on a digital social platform, wherever you see this, we will have links to the BeerOps website. We'll have links to the upcoming events, which are Brisbane, Perth, Melbourne, Sydney in that sequence. I think Brisbane is June the 19th from memory, but double check the website for updates. Make sure you plan to go and meet Dave Rees in person, ask him some great questions about what Copernicus AI does, and particularly what maybe they can do for you and your projects and your business. And in the meantime, Dave, thank you so much for making time to catch up. We will look forward to having you back on the show again soon. But until then, safe travels, keep innovating, and yeah, stay awesome and keep making magic happen.
Thank you for having me. Really, real pleasure to meet you.
Likewise, thanks, Dave.